Good evening. This is Scott and Vicki Werner, and we're teaching about trauma and emotional release healing. So tonight we're going to talk about releasing negative emotions. This is week number 2, and we're going to make the statement. I'm going to ding the dong, and we're going to say, I am aligning with, and say your own name. Say it out loud, because when we say it out loud, it sends those vibrations out in the universe, telling the universe you're aligning with you. So let's do this. I am aligning with, say your name. I am aligning with, say your name. It's the law of threes. I am aligning with, say your name. Okay, so let's get going.
This one's yours.
Oh, I get to do this one. Okay, now emotions with the lowest frequency are shame, blame, and guilt. And we also have fear on here because this is a major contributor to low vibration. Fear vibrates at 100 with David Hawkins' scale, and you're not even putting out positive energy till you get up to 250. So just know fear is vibrating a logarithm and a half below neutrality. And shame, blame, and guilt is the worst because it vibrates 40 to 50 on David Hawkins' scale of the map of consciousness. Unworthiness actually makes you undeserving of receiving the blessings of heaven. And hate makes us hurt other people. So all of these vibrate very low and are not good for us. So we've got to get rid of these things.
That's right. But let's address the common causes of an energy imbalance that has to do with our negative emotions. Number one is definitely going to be an unresolved past. When we have an unresolved past, mostly it's because we have unfinished business, or there wasn't forgiveness or a deeper understanding. And our brain holds on to things that we have had in the past because we're trying to protect ourselves from having it again. And so we store that energy in our bodies and in our subconscious mind as a protection to self. But this unresolved past is weighing us down and preventing us to see clearly in the future. Repressed emotions are very common in our society because, you know, when we're 2 and 3 years old, 4 years old, we can throw a temper tantrum and it's socially acceptable. We understand children have dysregulation and we get tired or cranky and you start throwing that temper tantrum. Well, it's not really socially acceptable to do that as adults. And so we hold those emotions in, and we'll have an encounter with somebody else or an experience on the road or some kind of dysregulation happens, and we hold that energy in. And if it's a heavy emotion, like a really intense emotion, it really can impact us. It can block those energy centers in our body and the meridians that we'll talk about momentarily. Spiritual detachment is another one that we have to address. Now, spiritual attachment isn't the divine or isn't God detaching from us. But when we have challenges that we may perceive as a belief that we are being punished, or that it's karma, or that God didn't grant our dreams, our wishes, our prayers, then we energetically detach from that energy. And I will really point out that it's us detaching from the divine, not the divine detaching from us. But this detachment is a detachment from our spiritual self, our higher self. And that detachment can lower our energy. It lowers our possibilities, it lowers our frequency and the field around us. And improper food, improper exercise, and improper sleep. Of course, these are things that we need to move and function optimally in this physical 3D world. We need healthy, nutritious food. That's our fuel. That's like the gasoline in our car, the food is in our bodies. This is our fuel to keep us moving and keep our brain thinking. We need the exercise to move this body. Our bodies are energy, and in exercise, it's energy in motion. It moves energy out of us. We aren't meant to be holding tanks of energy. We flow energy through us. And then sleep. Sleep is going to be very fundamental because it resets the body. It resets the brain. It closes down the material world and opens us up to the energy world. And it's a reset. And so when we're not getting enough sleep, we're obviously not giving our body and our brain a chance to set all of the worries of yesterday down. EMF exposure is a really big deal in today's world. We see everybody walking around their phone. They have them they'll keep them in their pocket. They wear their phones. There isn't a green zone anywhere in this world anymore, which means there's nowhere that doesn't have EMF exposure. And as far as toxic exposure, this obviously has to do with chemicals that are in the body that are because of environmental or chemical toxins that can happen to us through the air, through our food, through the products that we use in our home. Cleaning products is a very big deal that people, so my husband's slipping in and out of the screen, but will just stay with me. And then obviously unhealthy relationships. Unhealthy relationships.
Your husband actually sticks around until the end, you know.
So unhealthy relationships can cause a negative emotion because we start having these thoughts or emotions that become very dysregulated.
Now, let's do a personal check-in. Are your basic needs met? You know, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have to be safe, we have to have water, food, shelter, all these things, and we need help with emotional stability with our family. So it's very important that we have these basic needs met. And if these are not being met, boy, we've got to get on the ball and get some help so we can get our basic needs. So currently, a lot of people are going through emotional hardship because of all the fear, all of the anxiety of what's going on the planet. We're worried about shortages, we're worried about food, water, everything. And it's creating an environment where we can't move forward as humanity. And so it's real important that we take care of these basic things and get our emotions in a better way so that we can actually move forward with our life and start creating again. Because we can't create when we're in fight or flight. Okay, now physical pain or illness can hold us back too. 90% of physical pain is actually stagnant emotions that have been there and they store in our tissue and they actually cause discomfort, pain. Yes. And, at 10% are injuries, but 90% are emotional injuries. So unresolved childhood, past traumas can cause problems too. I meet people every day that they've had a past life that they're carrying forward negative emotions from trauma in a previous life. And we have to deal with these. And the best way to deal with it is use a practitioner like Vicki to go into a past life and resolve these issues and problems that we had. And we can do this very streamlined, but very important to get rid of unresolved childhood and past life trauma and past trauma, period. And whenever we lose a loved one, it can cause us to just stop and reflect. And a lot of times we go into a negative emotion, especially if it concerns that person that just died. And so we have to clear those emotions. And a lack of a sense of direction or clarity can be emotional issues. And we just have to ask God, ask a friend, ask a therapist what emotion that is. Because sometimes we can't figure it out, but we can get help. and ask God also.
Okay, so life experiences are something that we are obviously going to have, and as the human experience, we include emotions. Every experience, there's going to be some kind of emotion. So a few of the things that can impact us is obviously, like Scott's talked about, is the loss of a loved one. If you've recently lost a loved one, which many of us have, my father passed away earlier this year, and I know that as a mentor, it's not the time in this while that is that vulnerable, tender time after losing a loved one, especially a family member, that a part of you dies with them. A part of the nature of that relationship no longer exists. Of course, we know that my father is still around, and we know that our loved ones are still with us, and we believe that very much so. But their physical presence has shifted the energy, and the lack of that has shifted the energy. And so obviously, if there has been a recent loss, and this is determined by the individual, there's no timeline as far as when there has been a loss. If you've lost a loved one 30 years ago and it's still impacting you, then absolutely, it's just a very tender, vulnerable space. And so those experiences are not the time to forge forward and push yourself forward or brute force forward. As you know, if we had a client come through as a mentoring client that wants to accomplish great things and climb that corporate ladder, this isn't the time to do that. This is a time to go within. This is a nurturing time, a tender, reflective time. It's a processing and a releasing and letting go time. But they definitely impact us for a while. And you can have triggers for a very long time. Those last few months have been very, very tender for me. I'll hear a song that my father used to listen to, and of course it brings me back to that relationship. Obviously, going to have any kind of physical trauma. This can be a car accident. This could be a fall or something like that could cause an emotional dysregulation. Miscarriages and abortions, financial hardship, a divorce or a breakup, obviously negative talk, negative beliefs, and then any kind of stress in your home or your work environment. Obviously, all of these impact us emotionally, and as well as abuse, which includes, of course, physical, mental, sexual, or verbal abuse. All of that umbrella of emotions.
Boy, a lot of stuff can cause emotional trauma. And, you know, even our belief system, we can cause ourselves trauma if we think we're bad, we're unworthy. All kinds of thought forms can make us not move forward. Mental and emotional states go together. Whenever we can smell a smell that reminds us of a trauma, it goes immediately to our mind, and we're going, oh geez, what do I do with this information? Or what can I do to release this? A lot of things happen to us every day, and we need to be in a state of peace and calm. Mindset of lack, if you're lacking money or education, support, those are major issues that can keep us from moving forward. And so we need to be in a stable, good job or have a good education. And it's always good to have familial support or the support of friends and loved ones. So very important, past experiences can definitely cause a lot of limitations to our healing. And so, like I said before, we go to a past life regressionist such as Vicky or a healer who can go into and remote view the past and find those causes of your limitation and your past experience that caused emotional problems that are still stuck in your body. Now, when we have an unclear future, you know, a lot of people, they don't even know what to do right now. In fact, they don't think there is a future because they're in so much fear of what's going on. And so we need to stay present in the present moment. You know, a whole temple teaching last fall was the temple of the now. And we are supposed to stay in the present moment, in the now, and not worry about the future. Do the best we can in the now. And so if we're worried about the future, that's not clear. That's a worry, and you cannot plan your future when you're worried. So don't go to plan until you've cleared your energy so that you're definitely in the present moment and in the now. And refusing to forgive those who caused us emotional trauma, that's a bad idea, because we have to forgive. Forgiveness is divine. If you don't feel you can forgive, ask God to help you forgive those who have wronged you and caused negative emotions.
But forgiveness is obviously not easy, and we want to identify what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. So forgiveness is not condoning negative behavior. A lot of people have that feeling that if I forgive, then it gives them permission to abuse me or overstep boundaries. Or if I forgive, it makes them okay, but I'm not okay. So it's not condoning that at all. It's just acknowledging that there was an experience and you're not holding that emotional charge. And it's not pretending to be fine. Now, as women, it's kind of a catchphrase that women would say, oh, I'm fine, when a husband walks in, and obviously they're not. It's not pretending to be fine. We're not pretending to forgive, and it's not self-righteous or superiority. And if we forgive, it's not thinking that I'm better than somebody else because I have the capacity to forgive. But it is standing in a higher power, and it's not forgetting as well. We don't forgive and forget and then just wash it away and shut down the brain and any kind of memory around that. It is, though, important to recognize that it doesn't require the person or the experience to be present. Of course, it would involve another person. So whether if they passed over, or if it was somebody from school that you haven't seen in 20 years, or a coworker that no longer works with you, that you lost touch with, it doesn't require that individual to be present and have them, put their feet to the fire and have them have accountability in order for us to forgive. That actually has nothing to do with the forgiveness. It may make us feel validated for the way we feel, but it doesn't offer forgiveness. But what forgiveness is it's releasing an emotional charge. It's when you can have the experience replay in our mind, or we could talk about it with another person without that agitation or that feeling of wanting to have a call of action for that person to make something different. And it is a decision. It's a conscious decision to have change. Knowing that there was something that happened, acknowledge that we had an experience, and without the emotional charge, but we have a decision that we want better and we want to move on from that experience. And it's a shift in perception. Once we shift our perception and step out of the emotional entanglement of the experience, kind of like viewing it from an outside perspective, then we have a deeper understanding of the relationship of the individual, how it came into being, what it possibly was here to teach us, what the lessons were. And sometimes those lessons are what we want more of, and sometimes and often around these experiences, we know that we want less of, that we recognize, oh, I have value, or oh, I recognize that I allow somebody to step over me, or I recognize that I acquiesced my power to somebody else, and I learned a lesson from that experience. And it's a willingness to accept that this experience happened, but it doesn't identify who we are. When we accept there is an experience that happened and it is not an identifying factor of the individual, then we can separate ourselves from that experience. And it's an ownership of personal responsibility. Every one of us have caused pain to another person. Unconsciously or consciously, intentionally or unintentionally, we have all caused others pain. And when we recognize, yeah, I did that too, and I would really like somebody to forgive me for that. I learned something. I'm a better person now. I have a deeper understanding. And if we offer that to self, we can also offer it to others.
It's interesting because in the mornings, I usually check on my kids by asking them, how are you feeling this morning? And if they say to me, okay, or fine, I know that there's something emotionally affecting to them, and so I will go deeper. Now, simple release techniques are very important. We need to create a mental picture of the unresolved experience. In other words, go to that experience. Now, one of the things I really like to do is change the experience to something more positive. But that's for a later time. But for this time, we're going to repeat out loud 3 times the following. I release those thoughts and feelings and emotions because they no longer serve me. And you say it 3 times because there's power in the number 3. So say it with me. I release those thoughts, feelings, and emotions because they no longer serve me. I release these thoughts, feelings, and emotions because they no longer serve me. And keep breathing as you're doing it. I release these thoughts, feelings, and emotions because they no longer serve me. Breathing helps release the emotions.
Yes, so truths and emotional healing is, the baseline is that our brains are time travelers. Our brains are not capable of staying in present time. We can think about the future and we can have some kind of emotional response and a chemical response, and we can have a trigger for something in the past, and it will take us back there as if it's in current time. And so when we are reliving and looping these memories over and over in our system, we are programming our brain that it is current time, that it's happening to us again, and our bodies will respond as if it's happening to us in that moment once again. And we will have the same physical and chemical reactions. Now, healing, again, is never linear. This is my soapbox. I think I stand on more than anything. It's not a linear process. When we decide to make a decision to move forward, and then we have a setback, or we have a trigger, or we have an emotional response, or Mercury goes in retrograde, and we all of a sudden just like everything just goes to pot. We have to recognize we are moving and dancing in the ebb and flow. So we go forward and we may step back. We go forward and may step back. Allow the flow of the healing process, and knowing that each time we go back, we're gaining more tools for ourselves, gaining more wisdom, gaining more insight, and more understanding. And that journey is the lesson. That journey is the experience that we're ultimately here to have. And we are controlled by our beliefs and fears. Whether we know it or not, every decision that we make is based upon our fears and our beliefs. And when we recognize that we may limit ourselves and letting go, or we may want to hold back from engaging in a healing technique, it's because of a belief that we have to, or a belief that it's necessary, or a belief that we have to be a martyr or a victim. And these fears or beliefs really limit our potential for healing. And we have to recognize that we are only capable of doing what we know. And this applies to the whole. Every one of us are only capable of doing what we know and the tools we have. Now, when we see somebody and their interaction, and we think that somebody has to be held accountable for their age, or they're an adult, or they should have these skills and they don't, we have to recognize they may not have those skills, or they may not have those tools, or they may not have the development of self or the self-awareness to be different than they are. And that applies to us as well. We don't know until we know. And so giving that understanding helps us know that we're on this journey together, and every one of us is a student. And ultimately, everything is healable. PTSD, past trauma, no matter what the level of trauma, and no matter what the level of a dysregulation, if we were able to turn a gene off, and because of our thoughts, of our beliefs, we are able to turn that back on, and we are capable to heal. And our bodies can heal under all circumstances if we offer the right tools and the right environment and the right understanding. We can heal all things.
So the Sacral Chakra is a center we're going to talk about, because this is a very powerful center. It is our center of creativity, sexuality, impotence, financial power, and power over others, control, honoring relationships, physical survival, self-gratification even goes with this, fear of abandonment, rape, loss of our own personal identity. The sacred truth is we need to honor all life, and that means everybody around us and all life around us.
Yes, so in our sacral chakra, the second chakra, this is the creative center. And so when we have a deficiency, an emotional deficiency, this may show up as being shy or timid, where we hold ourselves back from engaging socially. We may be overly sensitive to a comment or an experience, and we become reactive. We may have a codependency to a relationship. We may want to carry the cross of heavy burdens and become a martyr of our life and recognize, I'm here to teach everybody else that my life's worth suffering so that you don't have to. That's that martyr energy, that victim mentality that obviously isn't healthy for anybody. And or sexual guilt. Sexual guilt, of course, can happen if there was an encounter that didn't go well. And in that explorative time in building relationships, if it wasn't how you wanted it to be, or if there was an experience that could be quite painful, this is a very private experience, and so we hold that within us. It's not something that we advertise on social media or we advertise in our family or friends even. So we kind of contain that and compartmentalize that. And so in order to balance, if there's any deficiency with you, the ways to help balance this second chakra is going to be express creativity. Of course, this is the creation center. And so any form of creativity is going to access and enhance that area. Quality time with loved ones where we feel nurtured and loved and supported, and we build upon the relationships. Dancing and moving your hips is a fantastic way to move that energy. If there's stuck energy, the more you can move, the more that you can help release some of that congestion and the energy around that second chakra. And belly laughter. Belly laughter is a fantastic way to heal. And I know for a fact that belly laughter decreases pain. I remember many times when I was in an enormous amount of pain in my healing journey, and spending time with my very closest friends where we would laugh into the night. Belly laughter till it hurts, but I recognized, I was very much aware that the pain receptors, it dulled that pain significantly in laughter. And also yoga, of course. Moving the body and opening the hips and opening those areas of the body is going to help release that.
Now, this being the chakra of creation, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? You'd go out and create, wouldn't you? You'd go out and create a job, create something. And because if you know you can't fail, you can do it. You believe you can do it. And so what I like to do, and I've used this for years, is I've written down, when I was in high school, I got in the habit of writing down everything I needed to do the next day, the assignments due, everything. And I would sleep very soundly, and I'd wake up very refreshed because I knew everything was written down, so my brain could remain calm and not have to worry about remembering everything. Because we don't sleep because we're always in turmoil in our mind. But if we write it down, we won't be in turmoil because we know it's there and written down. And you write down 5 things, you know, or maybe even 2 or 3, or maybe even 1 if it's really important. And keep it visible. You hang it up where you can see it when you get up and review it. Now, you choose something that lights you up. Choose one that makes you really happy, that you want to get done and accomplish. And that will help you be in a better mood because you know you're creating something. When I'm creating, I'm happy. I'm a happy alchemist. And so start taking steps to accomplish things and create things. But write them down so your mind doesn't worry about you forgetting. And you know, that's why you keep a journal by your bed. A lot of times we come up with ideas of creation when we're sleeping, we wake up and we go, oh man, that's the most terrific job, idea, and you fall back asleep, you don't write it down, you wake up, you can't remember. So write it down as soon as you receive it, and then you will remember it. So be conscious of mental and emotional noise. What that means is if your mind's on all kinds of other stuff and you're not focused on what you truly want to create, you're not going to be able to create anything because of all that mental noise. So we have to make our mind peaceful, calm. If there's emotional stuff going on, we need to clear it, and clear it before we try to create.
And this also applies to our beliefs and our emotions. And so when we have an idea that we want to do, then that noise gets in our head. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. All of the not enoughs. Or somebody else is better than me. That noise can limit us. So when we have those thoughts, that emotional or the chatter of the self, take note of it and get yourself out of the way with that. So we're going to use this as an example. If you can see on the screen, there's just a water bottle and there's approximately 2 ounces of water in here. Now this is representation of an emotion and the body. And so we'll have an experience, and that's easy to hold just like that, right? So we have a negative experience, and you can go like this for quite some time. I'm sure that if we continued this class throughout the rest of this hour, that Scott could probably hold this up. It wouldn't necessarily be comfortable, but have an emotion, and he can hold that up to some degree. Now, over time, that is going to weigh down on him. It's going to weigh down. His arm's going to get tired. Over time, he's going to start shifting his body because it's starting to feel uncomfortable. And that's only a single emotion. Now, if I grabbed another picture and I kept adding to this would continue to weigh him down. And this is a representation of what emotions do to our body. If they're being stuck and held and repressed in our body, over time, we're weighing ourselves down, and we're limiting ourselves from being free to express, free to see bigger possibilities, free to expand our energy into the greater void and the greater possibilities that we can draw to us, because all of our energy, our vital energy, is focused on what's weighing us down. It's like our digestion is taking all of our vital force if we have digestive issues, or our thought process is taking all of our vital energy. Well, this takes more energy than we realize. And so in order to heal, we need to be willing to set this down. We need to be willing to let this go. And we may not even know what these stuck emotions are, but I will assure you that these emotions get stuck and they start to go down into the body and hold at the density into these lower energy centers, the lower chakras. And they start to build up over time to our heart chakra, and we limit our relationships, we limit trust, we limit our free will because of all of the stuck emotions. So I don't know about all of you, but I'm going to encourage Scott to go ahead and set that down.
Oh, thank you. And I'm going to get rid of that emotion.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so releasing negative emotions, we understand that it's natural to avoid looking at what scares us or hurts us. All of us want to avoid pain at any cost. And so we tend to buffer ourselves away from that and not wanting to look at it. And even when somebody asks a question about a past experience, sometimes we want to shut that down because we can feel the dysregulation starting to happen in our body. And trauma is trapped emotion in the body. It's the energy in the body that's trapped. And that loop tends to just build up those energy, which causes the physical discomfort that Scott talked about. So in order to master self-regulation, we must find the source of that trauma. If we don't ever identify that source, then we keep having experiences that we're not understanding why we don't have anything healed. And that's why regressions are fantastic. That's why somebody doing some kinesiology or some muscle testing, balancing of the energy centers, is because we want to get to the source of it. It's not like we want to process the emotion, but we do want to identify the emotion so that we can let it go. We're actually hanging on to it because we haven't released it. We haven't looked at it and identified it. So safety is in the body, not in the mind. It's not the mind that ever feels safe. It's the body that feels safe. And so when our body feels safe, our mind can let all of that go. But we hold on to past experiences until we find meaning. And meaning happens when we have wisdom of the experience. When we have meaning, our brain is triggered that it's okay to let it all go.
So when your brain is on high alert with a negative emotion, our body prepares to face that external threat. Even if it's something internal that we haven't thought about for a while, it can affect our body and put us in fight or flight. And that keeps us from moving forward. You can also become passive like Bambi and just try to resolve things, people around you and stuff, but that's not going to deal with that emotional threat. All our body defenses get turned on: adrenaline, muscle tenseness, blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, blood sugar can rise for an extra energy to meet the challenge. This is rarely a physical threat, but most of our response is triggered internally and affects us physically.
Yeah, in our ancestors, it was a physical threat that caused that dysregulation. But in today's world, it's usually an internal response to our external environment. So this is an image of Meridian Points, and we're showing this because we're going to address tapping, or EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. So we want to identify that these meridians run through our entire body, and these energy channels, are what carry our vital energy force. And each one of these meridian is associated with a different organ, and they each have what's called an end point. Now these are specific points that is accessed through when needles with acupuncture, or acupressure, which is by touch. And so these accessing these energy points, they either help balance that flow of energy or unblock the full flow of energy in these various meridian points. Now, when we talk about tapping, you can do either side, left or right. It doesn't matter. It has the same effect, or you can even do both. And so that runs down both sides of the body. So we can go ahead and keep moving, but just know that these meridian points are going to be what we're going to look at today.
Now the amygdala and limbic system are very interesting. That's where we store a lot of our mental, emotional traumas. And the stress response begins in the amygdala, and it's a component of the limbic system. And the limbic system is the source of emotion and long-term memory. And so we tend to store stuff there and other parts of our body, especially organs and glands, and sometimes muscle tissue and joints. And so these negative experiences are encoded, and over time they program the amygdala for an expected threat via triggers. So we all the time are getting triggered with different things, and it can change our emotion from a good emotion into a bad emotion, just boom, like that. Tapping sends a calming response of safety to these triggers. And so if you get triggered, it may be a good time to start tapping.
That's right. So tapping and law of attraction, we have to address this right out the gate, because if you've been on self-development, or have you been wanting to increase your life, usually the law of attraction will come into the conversation. Knowing that negative thoughts, beliefs, symptoms, and experiences, they already affect us. They're already in our past. They're already in our body and in our subconscious mind. And so when we acknowledge them, it teaches your amygdala that you are safe to release them. And releasing these negative energy opens the pathway for a new and better understanding. So it's much like when we want to clean out a closet, or we want to clean out a storage unit. We don't just ignore it and just assume that it's taken care of. We open the door, we turn on the light, and we acknowledge what's there so that we can sweep it out of the way and start moving forward. Okay, so tapping is going to address. Tapping is really supportive for symptoms, emotions, events, and limiting beliefs. And so when we choose to work on something that is unhealed, it's like peeling the onion. We're getting the one with the most pressing issue, and we let that go, and other ones can simmer up to the top. It's never going to be a one and done experience. You could do a single tapping experience and release a lot of what's being addressed at this time, but always there's going to be an opportunity for more. So as we address things, allow that things are going to come up. And so when you do this, you're going to note whether there's going to be a change in your state of being. Now, if that change is increased, it's because you need to be aware that that is possible, that you had a thought or an emotion that came up again, or an image of something that just flashed through you and it triggered something else that it's related to. So know that this frequency of the intensity from the 0 to 10 scale can shift, and usually it'll go down. But if it goes up, it's because there's an association. So our tool for transformation for week 2 is tapping. Again, that's emotional freedom technique. And so I'm going to take you through these steps. We're going to do an example tonight, and we're going to use the most pressing issue as an example as overwhelm, because let's face it, everybody has some level of overwhelm. And if you feel like you are immune to this, fantastic, and go you, but stay with us and go through this experience just to see that at whatever your overwhelm level, it can be better. So what we're going to do is step number 1 is identify the most pressing issue. Now again, it can be beliefs or physical or emotional, but we want to be very specific. So the specifics that we are going to use is overwhelm. That's the energy that we're going to address. That's the most pressing, I think, for most people. Then you're going to stay with me.
Stay with you,
So
baby.
choose a reminder phrase. We use a reminder phrase because, let's be real, our brains will shift awareness very soon. Have you ever been in the middle of saying a prayer and you're thinking about, oh shoot, I need to pull dinner out? Or have you ever been in a conversation that you need to be very present for, and all of a sudden you're remembering that you forgot your shoes? I mean, just the random things that can happen. So choosing a reminder phrase keeps our attention on what we're trying to release and what we're letting go. So as a reminder phrase, it's going to be just very simple. All of this overwhelm. All of this overwhelm. And you'll hear me say that a couple of times in this process. Now, we're going to rate intensity. This is it's an intuitive thing. It's not something that you're going to pass a test with. This is intuitively, and the reason why we have this rate intensity is because we want to notice when there's been a shift. So rate your intensity from 0 to 10. 0 means the 0 charge. There is no association with overwhelm. 10 means, yeah, I'm feeling it. My body feels it. I can feel the sense of overwhelm. My plate feels very heavy. Any of those kind of things. So go ahead and rate that now. So Scott, we're going to use you as an example. So on intensity of overwhelm, you had a very busy day today, and we're here being as present as we can. So rate an intensity of overwhelm. What would you say your overwhelm intensity?
I would say a good 8.
A good 8. I think that's what I would use as well, as approximately 7 or an 8. And then we're going to create a setup statement. Even though, so the setup statement is going to be, even though I feel all of this overwhelm, I love and accept myself anyway. Now that may be uncomfortable for people to say, like, actually I don't love and accept myself, and I feel overwhelmed because I don't love and accept myself. But in our true self, when we are aligned to our highest and truest self, we love and accept ourselves anyway. It means there's an experience, there's an emotion that we are addressing or learning from, but ultimately it comes from love and compassion of self. So we're going to start on the karate chop point. And I'm not going to do this with you quite yet, but Scott's showing you on the fleshy side of the karate chop point, of the pinky side, that karate chop, that fleshy side. You're going to take a few fingers, and it's intuitive again. You can do 5 to 7 taps, or just keep doing it, and use a little bit of force, but not so much that you obviously don't want to cause any comfort to the body. So we're just tapping on the side. We're going to repeat that setup statement or a version of that 3 times on the karate chop. Then I'm going to tap through the points while we're speaking. I'm going to go over those momentarily, take a cleansing breath and check in on intensity, and then repeat until we feel release. Now, whether you have been tapping for years and you're a genius at this, or you've never done this before, still stay with us, because there's opportunity for all of us to release some overwhelm. This is yours, my friend.
Now, the points to consider: clarity, be clear on what you're releasing. So right now we're releasing overwhelm. But if something else comes up and it seems more important, you can tap with us, but clear that emotion instead. And so choose one concern at a time, but the highest intensity. And words are not the focus. You can simply breathe while we're doing this and do what we're doing. And
I will say, people get hung up on, I don't know what to say, and what if I say it wrong, or feeling fear of expressing what we're experiencing. Any of those can be. So let it all go. The words are not the primary. And what we're doing is we're training the amygdala to recognize safety and allow it to release. So you can just go through these tapping points and just breathe and just focus on overwhelm and just breathe, because again, breath moves energy.
But do the tapping with us, because the tapping hits the emotional points that help the amygdala release this information and make it less severe. You know, sometimes it takes several sessions to release one emotion, but it's mainly due to we're not focused on the most important emotion that's causing our overwhelm. And so definitely stay with us. Now, if the intensity increases, look at what else showed up and possibly start tapping on what that is. Be patient and gentle with yourself. Love yourself. How can you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? So be patient, gentle, and loving with yourself as you release what has been stored for survival. Once you release the negative, you tap to bring in your desired state. And Vicki will show us that also.
That's right. Okay, so this is a graphic that's in my book. I have a chapter on tapping, and so we're tapping on overwhelm. So you see the karate chop point on the side of the hand, and then this graphic, you'll see that the top of the head, but we will end at the top of the head. So you have the eyebrow point. The very first one we'll turn to is, again, this can be either side, but it's on the eyebrow bone where the eyebrow meets the bone of the arch of the nose. Then we're going to move on to the side of the eye. Again, we're staying on this bone, but it's on the side of the eye. And again, underneath of the eye, the under eye, again on this bone. Then we move down to on the philtrum, between the nose and the upper lip, just on that center of the philtrum. Then the next point is going to be the lower lip and chin. It's going to be where that crease is. Right there on that crease is going to be the tapping point. And I apologize, we're moving fast because there's a lot we're trying to get done. So try to stay with us. You'll have this recording. You'll be able to keep going with this. But stay with me. I'll try to take it as slow as I can. But then we move to the collarbone point. Now this collarbone point isn't actually the bone. It's about an inch or two below the collarbone. So the collarbone point, but it is called the collarbone point. And then the next one is going to be the underarm. Now women, this is where your bra would be, the bra line between underneath the armpit. And men, it's a couple of inches below the armpit. And then we move to the top of the head. When we do that, that's called one round. It usually will take a couple of rounds, and we're only doing this as an example, but that's a single round of addressing. And usually we'll do a couple of rounds of that, take a deep breath, do a check-in, and then we'll bring in some really good positive. So let's go ahead and begin. So I'm going to, Scott's going to work with me, and you're going to mirror me. So Scott will mirror what I'm doing, and you'll repeat with Scott. So everything that I say, you're going to repeat it and say it to yourself as well. And again, you're going to be tapping on these points. and addressing this and then repeating it. And you can do it quietly. You don't have to do it out loud if there's people in the room with you. But say these words, and if though there's something else that comes up and what I say doesn't resonate, or you feel a little bit of a hitch, say something else or just breathe. This is your journey, and I really want to support you to have the most success as possible. So I will say it, and Scott will repeat, and you'll repeat with Scott. So I hope that's clear. So, overwhelm. We had a level 8. So, okay, side of the hand. Even though I feel all of this overwhelm in my body.
Even though I feel all this overwhelm in my body.
I love and accept myself anyway.
I love and accept myself anyway.
Even though overwhelm has taken over my life.
Even though overwhelm has taken over my life.
I love and accept myself anyway.
I love and accept myself anyway.
Even though I feel so much overwhelm.
Even though I feel so much overwhelm.
It makes me want to cry.
It makes me want to cry.
And I don't know how to keep moving forward.
And I don't know how to keep moving forward.
I'm willing to love myself anyway.
I'm willing to accept and love myself anyway.
Top of the eye.
Top of the eye.
All of this overwhelm that I'm feeling.
All this overwhelm that I'm feeling.
Side of the eye. It feels so heavy in my body.
It feels so heavy in my body.
Under the eye. Sometimes I don't even know how to move forward.
Sometimes I don't even know how to move forward.
Because there's just so much.
Because there's so much.
Under the nose. Sometimes I want to cry.
Sometimes I want to cry.
Sometimes I want to yell.
Sometimes I want to yell.
But ultimately,
I'm
quite tired.
I'm tired.
Chin. Because of all of this overwhelm.
Because of all the overwhelm.
Going down to the collarbone point. All of this overwhelm that I'm feeling.
All this overwhelm that I'm feeling.
And I will say, we can stay right here at the collarbone point for just a moment and tell our story. And just telling your story as you stay at this collarbone point helps release it. It's this chakra energy that we really are addressing the emotion. So I can pause for a moment and I could say to Scott, I'm feeling so much overwhelmed. There's a lot of responsibility with the children. I have these things that I'm trying to create, and so many people are pulling at me, and I don't know that I have the energy for that. And I could talk myself through that experience as I'm releasing some of the emotion rather than just talk and stuff. So coming back, all of this overwhelm.
All of this overwhelm.
Under the arm. So much overwhelm that it makes my body feel tense.
So much overwhelm it makes my body feel tense.
Top of the head. In fact, my whole body feels tense.
In fact, my whole body feels tense.
My shoulders feel heavy.
My shoulders feel heavy.
My gut feels tight.
My gut feels tight.
My mind is wandering crazy.
My mind wanders hopelessly.
And I feel overwhelmed.
And I feel overwhelmed.
Going back to the top side of the inner eye. All of this overwhelm.
All of this overwhelm.
Side of the eye. It's just too much.
It's just too much.
Under the eye. I don't know how I'm ever going to catch up.
I don't know how I'm ever going to catch up.
Under the nose. And I really would like to let it go.
And I would really like to let go of the overwhelm.
Chin, but I don't know how.
But I don't know how.
Coming back to the collarbone point. But I am open to a new way of being.
But I'm open to a new way of being.
Under the arm. And I am open to letting this all go.
And I'm open to letting it all go.
Top of the head. I am allowing this now.
I am allowing this now.
Take a deep breath. Okay, you were at 8. So check in with yourself, see if you noticed any shift. Did you notice any shift?
Yeah, I'm down to a 3.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so that was a very quick example, but ideally you want to get down to a level 4 or lower before we bring in the positive. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward so that we can get through this, but we feel that there was a shift. I actually feel a shift too. I feel better. I can do this.
Yeah, I feel more light around us. Oh, wait, we got lights around us.
All right, so we're going to start at the top of the head, and we're going to bring in some positive here. Wow, I've done a lot.
Wow, I've done a lot.
Top of the eye. I've accomplished a lot of things.
I've accomplished a lot of things.
Side of the eye. It wasn't always easy.
It wasn't always easy.
Under the eye. And sometimes it was really hard.
Sometimes it was really hard.
Under the nose. But I did it.
But I did it.
And I can do hard things.
And I can do hard things.
And I can also, and chin. I can also recognize that I can have support if I need it.
I can recognize and have support if I need it.
Collarbone. I don't have to do everything now.
I don't have to do everything now.
I can just take it one step at a time.
I can just take it one step at a time.
And if it doesn't need to be done,
And if it doesn't need to be done,
I can let it go.
I can let it go.
Under the arm. Letting it go now.
Letting it go now.
Top of the head. Letting it all go.
Letting it all go.
All right. I hope you had some relief. I hope you did the tapping with us. Know that there's a lot of opportunity with that. My book has a lot more detail, and there's some YouTube videos that you can get on and learn more. But this is a great opportunity to just let go some of that emotional
You
tension.
know, I was a huge skeptic of tapping when it first came out. But then as Vicki used it and it worked for her, then I decided, well, maybe if it's working for her, I better do it for me. And so I started doing it, and it actually did work.
Yeah, and let's be honest, when I started training and doing it, you were resistant.
I was very resistant.
And you're like, what are we even doing? And I said...
Yeah, I got to let go of my resistance.
He was very resistant, but there was times when he was very emotional, and I said, come back to the table. Let's do some tapping. And every time you got some benefit.
I got benefit.
And I will say, for me, it sometimes is 15 minutes later, even though we finished the tapping session, it may be a couple minutes when the regulation of the body is still in process. So don't rush the experience, but there's just something to work with.
So let's talk a little bit about essential oils, because essential oils not only smell and deliver energy to the brain, but they release that energy into your body. They're very small molecules and very potent molecules, and they absorb into every cell in the body. Now, juniper berry and patchouli are very good for the creative center. And you apply it, you can apply it to the bottom of your feet, you can put it in your umbilicus, you can put it on the back of your neck, over your chest, on your kidneys. I love juniper berry on my kidneys. It always makes my kidneys feel better. It gives them energy. And you can use a drop on your wrist. So put just a drop on your wrist, rub your wrists together, and you can smell it throughout the day to benefit you. Now, it's interesting, juniper covers addictive tendencies, and it does help you get off addictions, helps get rid of tension and stress, depression, and it supports the courage of letting go. So it's a very great essential oil. Patchouli helps with dopamine deficiency. And you know, dopamine deficiency, a lot of us are taking L-Dopa now because we're getting shaky because of all the anxieties and fears and different things. But patchouli can calm down the system, make your dopamine work better, gets rid of anxiety, depression, nervous, exhaustion, calming your body, relaxing your body. And when you're relaxed, your digestion can go. Because when you come out of the fight or flight, you can actually stimulate your parasympathetic system, which is your repair and rejuvenate. And so, you know, it's very good for hyperactivity and panic attacks too.
Yes, and so when we say these aren't medical claims, of course, but there is so many studies about the efficiency and efficacy of these essential oils. So as a review, we are energy beings, and tapping helps calm our brain's response to survival and release trapped energy out of the body. And ultimately, we need to feel safe in order to let go of what no longer serves us. So if you have any questions, now's the time. If you have already posted it on the Q&A, we have a chat here. Okay, so can you speak about, miasma, is that?
Miasms.
Okay, I think it's miasm, but
yes.
Do you think there may be an overall miasma happening in our atmosphere or country, our atmosphere of our country?
Absolutely. because there's some past stuff that our country's done, and that's being illuminated, and we're going, wait a minute, weren't we supposed to be the good guys? And in actuality, we've been bad guys and good guys. And so don't let that stop you from believing in your country or world. Now, miasmic energy means it comes from other generations. So our forefathers, our parents, our grandparents, clear back. And miasms can affect 4 generations back and 4 generations forward. So 8 generations, that's a lot. That's 160 years of energy. And so miasms are very important. And if something keeps you from releasing your own overwhelm, you may have a miasm not only with the country, but maybe with your family, your family's history. All of my family, my father, my stepfather, my grandfather, my uncles, they all served in the military. And they came back with some issues. And so how we clear miasms is a little different. And we can't really go into that today. But you can clear miasms by forgiving your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and your great-great-grandfather. Go back 4 generations and forgive them. You can tap away some miasms. We use homeopathics, and you have to take them for about 6 months to get rid of a miasm. You can do more than one with homeopathics. With tapping, you should focus on just one. I hope that kind of answered your question, but forgive our country. We need to clear this emotional trauma from even our country.
That's right. So I apologize, but the internet just shut down on this, so I have one question else that came up, and that was a question. If there's another question, go ahead and type it now because it cleaned my screen. But the question was the name of my book, and thank you for asking. For those of you who don't know, I had a near-death experience in 2012 and spent a number of months healing.
Years.
Years healing for sure, but months in bed. And I really had to claw myself out of a very, very, very challenging health. And so my book is called The Secret to Healing and Recovery. And so it's not only the healing of the body and mind, but it's the recovery process. It's how our lives change as we go down that rabbit hole of healing. And the archetype that I was with this is that wounded healer archetype, where you go through enormous challenges to be able to be of service to others. So my book is my journey, my past, my near-death experience when I crossed over, and then that journey of processing, and then I have a lot of tools of support around there, and I include a fantastic chapter on caregiver support. And I really think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we are all going to be caregivers that are coming up. There's a lot of health challenges. A lot of people are struggling emotionally and physically. And so whether you're a caregiver for an elderly parent or a caregiver for a neighbor, I right now am help support a loved one that is a very dear friend of mine that is struggling and with some pretty intense health challenges. And I have a lot of tools that I've learned, and most of those were my awareness of my environment and how other people showed up. So again, it's The Secret to Healing and Recovery. It's available on Amazon and at our store if you want to call and go ahead and order that. And so anybody who orders through our store, we give a 20% discount. And so you can go ahead and do that. So,
and it's an excellent book. It's better than all 3 of mine. So,
well,
I admit,
we're not comparing, but
she did an excellent job putting this book together, and it flows and it helps you to heal. Okay, so any other questions?
I think there's just one. Let me see some. Oh, you're welcome. So they're just saying thank you.
So we're going to give you all a blessing. And like I said, review, review, review. Because as you review, you're going to clear emotions, clear traumas, and you're going to get better. So let's go ahead and give you all a blessing. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, the creator of the multiverse, who commanded me to give blessings to all the humans. And by virtue of the great divine director, the Holy Spirit of God, who commanded me to give these blessings to all humans on and off planet Earth, we give you all a blessing for your behalf. We call forth the energies of the divine to come into your bodies, to make you aware where you have stored emotional issues, and to become aware of what those emotions are so you can clear them. And start now. We bless you that you will be able to clear all the emotional blockages in your body and use tapping to start. We bless you that you will feel the energy, that you will get rid of your overwhelm, get rid of your fear and anxiety, get rid of all the emotions that are not serving you but are causing you pain and problems. We bless you that your bodies will function perfectly, that you'll be able to remove these emotional blockages and your pain, your uneasiness, your confusion will leave your body, and you'll be able to start creating in your creative center. We bless you that your glands, your organs, your systems will function perfectly, that your muscles, ligaments, tendons, and joints will be healed. We bless you that all of your body will function perfectly and your energy will become higher as you clear out the negative emotions. We bless you with these things in the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, and in the name of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua ben Joseph, and all the other ascended beings of light and love. Call upon them and they will help you. So be it. So it is.
Fantastic.
God bless all of you.
Next week we have releasing emotional blockages. We'll have this training up soon once we get it edited and get it up on my YouTube channel and on the Vimeo. We also, on the Zoom link, as a reminder, we included an interview that I did that showed last week. I talked a lot about healing trauma and other tools that I think the reason why we send it to you is because I discuss a lot of things about trauma as well, and it's an extra bonus of information that may be supportive on your journey. Oh. So thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Good information this woman has, so listen to her and do what she says.
God bless.
I do, and I feel better.
God bless everyone.
God bless you all.